What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do a little bit of a discussion video. Instead of doing a deck profile in this format that's tier 0, unless you're playing a Shizu tier or, I guess maybe Fluanderies, you're not really going to compete, so it doesn't really matter what deck profile I give you anyway. So my thought for today was to do a bit of a discussion about what decks are best for longevity. What decks can you pick up? And it will always feel fresh to play. There will always be updates available. Every set coming out, there's always a chance you're going to have some way to update your deck with the newest cards. If you were to only buy one deck and play it forever, what would be your best choices to keep things fresh as long as possible? So just a fun little discussion today. I have a few ideas in mind that would qualify in the top 5 decks that would be fresh forever until Yu-Gi-Oh is dead. And I also have some honorable mentions that are, not so bad. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I guess the first thing I want to start with is some examples of decks that will not be fresh forever. Some decks that won't change at all unless specific support is released for that deck. And I guess the best example right now I could think of is like Exo Sister. The deck locks you into Exo Sister monsters. You can only, pretty much make rank 4 Exo Sisters in your extra deck. You have to devote most of your main deck spots to Engine. So realistically, no matter what comes out, you are only going to play Exo Sister Engine in your main deck. And then everything else is just like maybe pick your hand trap based on the meta. And that's about the extent of, flexibility in your main deck. That's the opposite of what I'm talking about. Okay, we're looking for decks that are super flexible, that can incorporate whatever is new in the meta, and then you get the most bang for your buck for sure long term if you pick up these decks and can play them whatever format you want. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with what I think is deck number 5 that is best for longevity, and that is going to be Dragon Link. So Dragon Link, as we know, has been around for years, and I think it still will be around for years. And the reason being is that it doesn't lock you into stuff, except for maybe dark monsters in the extra deck after you use Rocket Tracer, but it's nothing like you're locked into dragons for the whole turn, you're locked into darks for the whole turn. And even if it did, it would still probably be fresh forever because there's always dark monsters being released, always dragons being released. It's the most popular monster type in the game. Any extra deck card that's released has a chance of being incorporated into Dragon Link. Let's take, for example, dragons were being played with like Crusadia. Dragons that were then, incorporating more rocket stuff. Dragons were then playing with Thunder Dragons, dragons with the Brave Engine, dragons with now Bestials. So pretty much just whatever comes out has a chance of going into Dragon Link and being a relevant combo deck. So I think that's deck number 5 for kind of just longevity, flexibility, chance to be played until Yu-Gi-Oh is over with as a card game. All right, now deck number 4 that I want to include in this list is the Brigade deck. So Brigade is mega flexible because it can go into anything in the extra deck. Pretty much, it can go into any type of Link monster. It can go into, Xyz or Synchro if you want to. Just as long as you're using Beast, Wing Beast, or Beast Warriors. Pretty much the reason Brigade gets onto this list is that any 3 of those type new cards can be considered for play in Brigade. So you never have to wait for Brigade specific support to come out in order to update your deck. You can always check out, there's some one-off Wing Beast monster. You can always see, oh, will it fit in my Brigade deck? You at least have a chance. The deck is super flexible in terms of room for techs, super flexible in terms of room for defensive cards, hand traps, whatever you want, or just like whole new engines. You can combine it with, we've already seen Lyrilusk. You can combine it with Sprite, which has nothing to do with Wing Beast, but still Brigade Sprite is a thing. Brigade Branded was a thing. And I'm sure going forward into the future, different types of archetypes, different engines that you can consider playing in Brigade, even though it doesn't necessarily, directly correlate at first glance. Yeah, just a lot of chances for support for this deck, and I think it will stay fresh for a very long time, as long as cards are still coming out. Okay, the third deck I want to plug. Yes, I say plug because, this is my channel, and therefore I have to plug. And whether or not it's good is another thing, but the Magical Musketeer deck is one of the most flexible decks of all time. The reason being is that any spell card released is Magical Musketeer support. Any trap card released could be Magical Musketeer support. The deck does not lock you into anything. It has a ton of free space in the deck for new engines. It can take special summons from, any other engine that you want because, there's no locks. You're not locked into lights. You're not locked into fiends. It's a Link 1 deck. All that it really takes is your normal summon. So any special summoning engine will work with the deck. So it's definitely a flexible deck. You're not going to compete in every meta, but the deck will never get, old. It will never get unfresh because no matter what set is released, you can look through that set and find a card that you could play in your Magical Musketeer deck if you want. I'll give some examples. This is straight channel plugging of my channel, but I've combined Magical Musketeers with like 8 different engines. I have videos for them all. They're all the Musketeer videos. Go check those out. I won't get into it too much, but for example, Branded, Despia, Mech Knight, World Legacy, rank 8s. You can combine it with any darn thing you want as long as there's a spell card related to the backup engine. So always flexible, always fresh. One of the reasons that it's my favorite deck in the game, Magical Musketeers. You can play it until Yu-Gi-Oh is dead and not get too bored with it. All right, deck number 4. This one, I couldn't choose one particular deck because there's a few decks that fit the bill, and these are pretty much trap decks. Specifically, what I had in mind was Altergeist and Traptrix, and I guess Labyrinth you can throw in the mix too, but all of these archetypes function based on trap cards being activated. So every trap card released from here on out is support for those decks, and that's why it will stay fresh forever, is because any trap card that ever comes out in the future could possibly be incorporated into one of those decks. Altergeist will trigger off of any trap, Traptrix will trigger off of any trap, and then Labyrinth, specifically normal traps for that deck. But yeah, still you can always consider playing one of the trap decks and being okay. I left Eldritch off this list. I don't think Eldritch is a deck itself. I think Eldritch is an engine. Eldritch doesn't interact with new stuff. Eldritch just goes alongside new stuff. And that's kind of where it's different with Traptrix, Geist, and Labyrinth is they can interact with the new cards. New cards can have reason for being played in those decks and have some kind of interaction with your main engine. So that's why I separated those from Eldritch. And I think if you wanted a deck going forward and just stick with it forever, you can easily pick a trap deck because it will always be able to be updated with the newest, latest, and greatest stuff. All right, and really quick, a few honorable mentions I want to throw out that are kind of like along these lines. One is Mermail, I guess Mermail Lannian or whatever. And I guess alongside that, kind of Marincess, but I think Mermail is more generic. Any water monster that's ever printed, you can look at it and say, hey, does this go in Mermail? And therefore, every set, you have some kind of chance to throw something new in your Mermail deck, see if it works out. You can play all of the extra deck types in Mermail, I guess, or most of them. You can play Lynx, Synchro, and XYZ. So there's always a chance that something new will be relevant in Mermail. So yeah, I think that's one of the most flexible decks. It stays fresh. Don't lie to me and say that you haven't started a format and wondered, hey, could I play my Mermail deck again this format, or is it still no good? And I think low-key Mermail is a good deck to pick up right now because, they've been redoing the structure decks of, the past. And the Atlantean structure deck is coming up pretty soon, so low-key pick up your Mermail Atlantean stuff if you want to ever play the deck again. It's coming soon. Another honorable mention is Drytron. So Drytron works with pretty much any ritual strategy. The reason it didn't make the top 5 is that ritual strategies are few and far between. I guess we had like Libromancer, but that wasn't played with Drytron. We have like Vendread that was played a bit with Drytron. And then before that, like Necros and Heralds. So there are very few ritual-based strategies. Even though Drytron is generic for rituals, you're not really playing anything. You kind of have to wait for Drytron specific support or like rank 1s to come out or something like kind of niche in order to consider it for Drytrons. So that's why it didn't make the top 5. It is generic. It will stay fresh for a long time because it works with any rituals, except you're going to have to wait long periods of time in between the freshness checks before you can do anything with that. And then deck number 1 on the list of decks that will always be fresh and always be playable is the deck that's been around for a long ass time and probably will be forever. And that deck, of course, is the Sky Striker deck. And that deck, of course, is Sky Striker. Every spell card printed is Sky Striker support. We've seen this time and time again. Fusion Destiny package, Adventure package, Sky Striker in other stuff. Every power spell, triple tactics talent, forbidden droplet, pot of prosperity, every good spell printed goes in Sky Striker and just makes it better. And that's why Sky Striker will be a deck that stays fresh forever, is because any card that's green, you can stick in your deck and compete with it. It doesn't lock you out of anything. You can link climb, you can fusion summon, for example, DPE. There hasn't been any spell-based synchro support, but I'm sure when it comes, Sky Striker will be playing synchro monsters. So yeah, I think it's the most flexible deck probably of all time in terms of staying fresh, staying competitive, and just something that you can easily pick up and play indefinitely because there will always be new cards you can put in your deck and you don't have to worry about picking up something new. Yeah, and that pretty much concludes the video. Let me know what you guys think. What decks did I miss? What should I have thought about more? I was trying to think of a Pendulum deck that would work for this. Maybe Pendulum Magician is the most generic Pendulum deck, but I didn't really see that would fit anywhere in the top 5 in terms of ease of support, ease of incorporating new cards. You kind of need some specific stuff in order to put it new in Pendulum. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this list. What decks would you consider to be kind of generic? And yeah, with that, we'll see you guys in the next one. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot. It's free for you, and I would appreciate it. And with that, we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys.